Well, let's get to the KPMG Chief Digital Officer now, John Munnelly. John, thanks so much for your time. You would have heard some of my conversation there with Andrew, heard some of Jim Chalmers this morning as well when it comes to AI. I mean, this is critically important we get this right. And it's not just down to government, it's about government, I think, intervening where it needs to when it comes to those guardrails around what will be a bigger and bigger part of our lives.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. And it was an interesting conversation we were having with Andrew just then. I hope we don't miss the opportunity with this economic reform roundtable to actually really face into it, because the time is now. At least in our view, you know, AI is the biggest lever we have in terms of productivity in the economy for the next decade. And so if we miss the opportunity to do what we need to do now, we're just going to fall further behind. We can see it happening in other economies. And I think we've got a lot to learn from what other economies are doing. We see where EU is, and they went early with legislation, and they're probably pulling back from that position now. We've got the US gone the other way, and I actually think we have a great opportunity to unlock the productivity power in AI, but do it for Australia and do it now. I don't feel like doing nothing is an option at this point in time.
Okay, what should government be doing? Because as I keep on mentioning, much to my annoyance, is that this wasn't even a feature of the election campaign. Yep. We have these, you know, these massive changes in our lives that are just too politically difficult to talk about at an election.
Yeah, look, and we do have to face into it because the technology is changing very, very rapidly. So you're right to say, you know, it wasn't really addressed in the budget. There was $20 million in the budget in FY24 and then nothing last year. We've now got an opportunity to actually get this regulation right. And I actually do think we need some regulation, some really light touch regulation that manages to motivate people to invest in AI and productivity, but just protects the human rights impacts that it could have, because the technology is changing so quickly. We've now got situations where we've got technology businesses dealing with brain-computer interfaces, using AI to translate what people are thinking and then putting that out. Now, that's a fantastic, you know, feature or technology to have for people who can't speak and don't have language skills. But it's also a really dangerous thing if we start to, you know, allow that to run without actually having some regulation around it.
Yeah, one thing that it was quite, not concerning, but it was put kind of in front of us when Theo Von interviewed Sam Altman recently. It's one of his more recent interviews, and he unprompted really reminded us that we don't know what it means legally. A lot of people using ChatGPT, for example, as almost like their private counsellors or psychologists. That could be used in a future court case. Is that the kind of thing you think about when you think, well, we need clarity at least on that?
Absolutely. Clarity. Where does the burden lie? Who's responsible? You know, ultimately, I also think there's an education component here. We did a survey with Melbourne University earlier in the year. And at the moment, Australia is really behind on trust in AI. We're sitting at about 77% of Australians do not trust AI. And that's a real problem because we're not embracing it. We're not getting the productivity into the economy. So we really need to handle this regulation quickly and do it well. Find that right, you know, balance between innovation and protection. But we also need to focus on education. If you look at what other economies in the world are doing, India is a great example where, you know, that's an economy that is probably going to be the most impacted by AI because AI really automates some of those mundane tasks. Realistically, a lot of the tasks we offshore from Australia at the moment is the sort of thing that AI is going to really help. Now, that Indian economy, they've faced into that and they've created an education capability, free education, free training to their entire population around AI. I think that's the sort of stuff we need to look at in Australia to really lift the levels of trust, to unlock the productivity capabilities in it. We should be optimistic about it, but we do really have to start acting on this regulation soon.
Okay, John, great to talk to you. I've got a feeling we'll be speaking again soon about this.
Thanks, Laura.